Hey guys, Dave Ray, DB Restorations. How you doing today? Sporting my headlight, my glasses, of course. I always wear a welding hat. I kind of like it because with a bill on my head, I bang my head in and everything, but I look like a little robot now. Affirmative. But anyway, we're working on, I'm going to flip the camera around and I will plane it because everybody goes, oh, plane the phone. I can't see if you don't plane the phone. So here we go. Flipped over and planing. I'm going to zoom out a little bit there. There we go. Okay, 1969 Roadrunner. We're disassembling this car. We start on the inside out. And what I'm working on here is removing the door glass. I get a lot of videos, everybody wondering how to remove the door glass out of these B-bodies. Well, basically, 68 to 70 B-bodies are all the same, whether it's a Charger or a Roadrunner, a Coronet, or whatnot. Chargers, of course, got the upper pads. The lock mechanism is a little bit different. But all in all, the glass regulator and the door release and hinges and everything are all basically the same. Sorry, the latches and catches. So anyway, we're removing the glass. I'm going to try to zip through this video so it's not like 15 minutes long. So there's going to be a lot of pauses because I am filming this myself. But what I want to start with first is make sure you got a door handle, of course, so you can roll the window up and down. But we're going to remove some plugs. So these plastic plugs. So on the front of the door here, what we have is I got one right here, one right there. You got this little tiny plug in the door, which some of them don't have them. They'll be gone. And there'll just be a hole there. In the earlier cars, 67, 66, they'll have a screw there. But in this particular model, 68 to 70, they have a plug there. So we'll remove that plug. And then on the bottom of the door down here, like if you follow this wing window channel down underneath there, there's another rubber plug that we're going to remove. Okay, so let's do those and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Our three plugs are removed, and you can see there's one bolt in there. There's actually a nut in this one here. And then up here, there's an Allen head screw inside there that I will show you what I used to get that out. And then in the bottom down there, I can see in here. Gosh, it's tough to see in there. Forgive me for that, but there's a nut in the bottom here that, if you can see that, we'll have to remove as well. So, half inch. This one needs to come completely out. This one just needs to loosen up. The one on the bottom I try to take completely out as well. And what I use for this one up here is I have this, it's a ball joint end Allen. It's 3/16. It fits on a ratchet. So when this goes in there, it actually goes in an angle. You can kind of feel around in there. It doesn't go like straight on. It would be nice if it did. But you got to kind of play around until you find that bolt. Sometimes, believe it or not, these might be messed with early on in its life and it's not in there. But there you go. So you can see it's not exactly straight and it's in an angle. So that dude is in there. And what that screws into, there's like a square block on the inside, and I'll show it to you when we get it out, that screws into, but that's got to come out. You will not get this wing window assembly out without taking that out. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this bolt completely out, loosen that one, or completely undo it. It's fine. It's up to you. Completely take this one here out, and then we're going to take the nut off the bottom of this wing window channel. So let's do that, and I'll show you what I end up with. Oh, by the way, here's the plugs that I took out of there. Try to save your original plugs. The aftermarket ones are not as good. I mean, but if you do break them, because sometimes they're so dry they just explode. But they're not terrible. But I try to maintain all the original plugs and hardware and everything. So let's go ahead and get those out, and I'll be right back. Okay, here's what we got. Here's our upper bolt, half inch. It's a long one. That nut and washer on the bottom one there. Here's that deal that was behind here. So that's what you got there. You got your Allen. Of course, it won't come through this hole, so you got to kind of pull your Allen wrench out or your socket until that thing falls, and it'll get stuck in a little tray under here. You'll have to reach up in there and get it out. But this square piece will fall down. So don't lose that, and I'll kind of show you on another wing window assembly or when I pull this out where this stuff here goes. As for the bottom, normally just this nut would come off and the rest of this would stay in. This piece right here is supposed to be spot welded to the bottom part of this track. So this thing sits in there like this. Yeah, like that. And it's welded on there this way. And so that is an adjustment. It kind of supports that underneath of there and slides up and down. This right here, this little piece of foam in there keeps this from rattling because it'll go tick, 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 tick inside your door and drive you absolutely batty. So that's what that's in there for. This is very common for these to break off. And it's no big deal. Just take it all apart, and then whenever you get all your window and stuff out, you can just weld it on there. So not a big deal. So very common though. So those pieces are all out. So now what we're going to work on is I'm going to roll this window down. Don't freak out because the whole thing's not going to fall apart. This has got a little fork and it's sitting in there. This part here is going to go up and down and sag around, which isn't a big deal. But I'm going to roll my window down enough to take this lock out right here. This is like, I'm sorry, it's a stop, not a lock. But you'll take the screw out, then I'll take a pair of pliers and just pop this out of the glass. Once we get that out of there, then we'll start working on our back track. But I want to roll this down and get that out of there real quick. So we'll do that real fast. Be right back. Okay, lock's out of there. As you can see, a bunch of tabs broke off of it. Don't freak out. I would replace these anyway because odds are when you put them back in, it's going to break when you put it in. But that's out of there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove this back track. So if we come here in the back of the door, what we got up here is we got a 1/2 inch bolt there. And then on the lower part, we have a 7/16 here. Now, don't pull the bolt out of here. I mean, you can. If this thing is stripped or this busts off, you can undo this. But this is the actual adjuster screw. So all you really need to take off is this 1/2 inch one and the 7/16 one. And then what you got to do is kind of play with the window up and down. But what you're going to want to do is rotate this thing away from the glass because it's inside the slide and it'll pop out of there. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so now that piece is out of there. So this is basically the way it was in the door. So your one bolt was right there in the door, as you can see, and then the other one was on the outside. But that little curve at the top there is what that stop catches on and stops the back of your glass from going up. So this piece here can be adjusted up and down. It can be adjusted in and out, and that's what's going to determine your angle and stopping point of your glass. So that's what that joker right there does. So what we did was we took that out. So now what we need to do is we're going to roll the window down. And when we get the window down, what we need to do is we need to take out the cat whiskers, or these weather strips right here. And if you look at it, the glass doesn't quite come down far enough to get to those, but we can still, should be able to pry them out. If you have an issue and you can't get them out, what you can do is pull 2 bolts off your regulator and let the regulator pivot down, and what it'll do is it'll drop your glass down a little bit lower. So it'll allow you to get that out. But cat whiskers are a little bit tough. What I recommend doing, I'll show you here because I got the light on, is when you come in here, these tabs, oops, something stuck on there. These tabs in here go in, so when these snap in, they snap down like that. So the object to get them out is to pull them right up. Well, sometimes you can get underneath of them like this, and they'll pop back out. But most of the time they won't. As you can see, it just keeps going back in there. So what I do is I try to find the tab in there. You can kind of see, get it right on the tab. And I'll twist my screwdriver. I got a fat bladed screwdriver, but make sure it's on that tab. And I'll pull that thing out of there. So, especially if you're doing this with a painted car and you're just replacing something, you don't want to scratch the paint on the edge here. So even if you kind of tweak this little track down here where these tabs go in, you can straighten those out. Do not get something on the edge of your door and try to pry on it, because you're either going to dent the top edge of your door or you're going to chip your paint off. You're better off getting something down below the painted edge and popping it away and then going back and fixing that afterwards. You can get it with a pair of pliers or something. So we're going to go ahead and pop these tabs out on down. I'm actually going to pull the 2 bolts out of the regulator just to give me a little bit more room around that glass. Okay, so we'll be right back. Okay, we got those out. You can see I kind of tweaked a couple of them, but I can go back in there with a pair of pliers from underneath and squeeze those. around the edge and get those straightened out. And you want to do that before it goes to the body shop, because you don't want to be trying to do that after it's painted. So make sure you repair all that stuff before you do that. All right, so the reason to take the cat whiskers out is you need this width right here for when you pull your glass. We're going to pull the glass and wing window assembly all out at the same time. And that lower track part that your regulator is hooked on is going to catch on it. So you need that out of there. And then, of course, the rubber off the back there. And what I'm going to do here is, I forgot to say earlier, is this piece of weather stripping right here, or that goes around your door edge, is hooked to the wing window assembly here. So if you're, of course, painting the car, you're going to tear the whole thing off. But if you're just doing a repair, like, say, new cat whiskers or fixing some door stuff issues, you just need to take these 3 screws off. There's one there, and one up underneath of this lip right here, if you can see under there. And then that'll flip out of your way. So we're going to do that real quick, so that way this will slide out, or else you're going to get in the jam. Okay, that's out of there. Got that kind of thrown out of the side there. So now that'll allow our wing window to slide out of there. So what we're going to do now is, I'll show you these tabs real quick. Is see the way these are clipped on there, they kind of snap in on the downside. Sometimes you can catch like a slide underneath of this lip and pull them out. Like the door side ones, the outside door edge ones come out really easy. It's the inside ones are always tough. But I always save my old ones until I get my new cat whiskers, so I can look to make sure that the tabs are all lined up where they're supposed to be. A lot of times they're not, and they're off. So be sure to save those, and there you know which one's your inside one, which one's your outside one. Just mark them so you remember. But now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll my window back up all the way up to the top, and then I'm actually going to put masking tape on both sides from the wing window to the glass, so the glass will not drop down, because what I'm going to do then is I'm going to pull my regulator out of there. And a lot of times I don't pull it completely out, because you still have that lower assembly down in there that's obviously broke off of this one. So I'm just going to pull the regulator out, slide it off of the window track, this lower track right here. So I'm going to slide it out of that and then just lay the regulator down into the door where it won't be in the way of anything. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to roll the window up and tape the glass, and I'll show you here. Okay, so I rolled the window up. It's a little tough. You got to kind of get underneath the glass and push on it, because I had the 2 bolts out of the regulator. So you got to kind of push on it and wiggle it, and while you're doing the crank, and get it to come up. But once you get it to slide up, I put about a 10 or 12 inch piece of tape going from the stainless to the glass, so this will not drop down. So whenever I pull my regulator and drop my regulator down, the glass is just going to kind of lean down, and it won't fall or hit anything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I only got 1 bolt left, so I'm going to pull that bolt out and let my regulator slide on down. Okay, there we have it. So I just kind of put my regulator right there. Another thing is, make sure you wear gloves. I mean, you will cut your hands. A lot of the sheet metal, when it's punched in there, it's exposed under there, and it'll cut up your hands pretty good. So make sure you got a pair of gloves on, or at least a long sleeve shirt. There's a lot of times reaching in on these edges of the door here, man, it'll cut you up pretty good. But whenever I undid this nut, of course, it wants to drop down. There's a little bit of pressure on it. Don't freak out. Just let it kind of come out and wiggle it till it pops through. And then slide your regulator left or right to get it to pop out of that track. And then just set it down. So it's actually the arm of the regulator is all the way down here. And this is the wheel I had to pull out of that upper part. So it's still behind this frame, because this frame on this wing window goes all the way down the door, all the way to the bottom, like we said, to this piece. So by leaving the regulator in there and kind of pushing it out of the way off to the side, it allows all this assembly to come out without hitting that, and then we'll take that out afterwards, because it's kind of hard to pry around all that stuff. So what we're going to do now is everything's released there on the back. All our cat whiskers are out. I took my door lock knob off earlier. I forgot to tell you about that, but that doesn't associate with the window at all. So right now, on the end of this piece right here, there's like a fork that's in there. So we're going to pull up and kind of hold the back of the glass and the front of the wing window and just kind of do a little rocking motion like that and pull straight up until we get it completely out of there. Now, if this piece was still on there, this bendy piece, what I would do is you could either pull it all the way up and twist the glass to kind of get it out of that channel, which you can see, or you can pull it all the way up and slide it out, and then you can kind of get it out on this lower side here. So it's kind of up to you. But since it's broke off on mine, this is just going to come out real easy, like butter, because there's no piece to hang up on it. So let's get that out of there. Oh, and another thing is get a table or something ready so when you pull it out, you're not running around in your shop like a goofball trying to figure out a place where you can set this glass down where it's not going to get scratched. So get you a table set up or a stand to put this on ahead of time. So there you have it. It's out. We got it on the stand up here. Comes out in one complete unit. Here's your little slide there that you had to take the cat whiskers out for to make that operate. And you can kind of see, you want to make sure that this slide is still in there. This is a good time to change your weather stripping, that flocked weather stripping, if you want to do that. And of course, if you need to replace the shoes or the slide inside the wing window assembly, good time to do that. Or your rubber around the wing window as well. So here's your little fork that front bolt was hooked into. So that's why I was saying you could just loosen that one up and slide it out. This right here is that area where it catches on that square block with the Allen bolt. So, and then this part right here is busted off. So if we bring that, let's see what we got here. Joker up here, I'll show you how that was put on. So that would have been on there like that at the end. Okay, so you can see it's kind of got a funky angle, so we would have had to kind of twist that wing window to get it out at the end. But it's nice having the tape on there. It's a little easier to handle. It doesn't want to slide down on you, so you don't have your left arm dropping and your right arm dropping or whatever. So now we're going to pull our regulator out of there. So that dude's out. Good time to put all your little bolts. These bolts are pretty unique. They're short. And the reason they're short little stubbies is because you got bolts too long. It catches on that regulator. So make sure you save your original bolts. If you're missing one, make sure you cut bolts down to the right length, because it will catch on there and then your window won't roll up or down properly. It's going to drag and ruin your regulator. So put all your bolts, all your hardware back into the parts, you know, into the slide here too as well. Make sure all your felt in there is good, and your rubber, if it's busted, get new pieces to put in there. So you can see that little plastic piece in there. That catches on the other plastic piece on here. So these two mate with each other, and that's what creates that stop. So make sure everything's in good condition. Then here's that adjuster nut that would be accessed through right there on the door, so that this part right here will pivot in and out and allow you to get your glass to touch your quarter window glass. This car right here, as you can see, this is pretty common on B bodies. This one's all welded up, so the door got cracked all around the door latch. So they welded all the screws to the door. So this is a nightmare. It's pretty common on the B body. So I got to cut all that loose. I can't get the door latch out without cutting it loose. So this is a good time now. So I'm doing a complete disassembly. So what I'll do now is that now that the glass is out, I'll of course, you know, work on my door latch, door handle, all your latch and lock mechanism. Make sure you take pictures of everything so you know it all goes back the same way if you're disassembling it. And so there you go, man. Hopefully this video helps you guys out, and hopefully it wasn't too super long. You guys take care. God bless. Share it, like it, and hope to see you again soon. Take care.